What's up, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective. Always, or I should say, as always, joined by Audrian. Anthony over here, entertained down here. Hope you guys had a great week. Obviously, we all know what happened this past weekend. We had the New York Giants draft. We talked about day one on Friday. And then, of course, we had the draft on Friday night and Saturday. We're just going to get right into it today. Audriana, what did you think about the draft? How would you view it overall? I'm not going to ask you guys to put a grade on it if you don't want to, but how did you view it overall?
Overall, I loved it. My biggest concern coming out of night one was that they weren't going to be able to get guys like Darius Alexander and Cam Skattebo because of the pick that they had given away 99 for Jackson Dart. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I was like, a little iffy about that trade. And the fact that not only did we walk out of day three with those two guys, but we also got Marcus Bowe at 154, which is crazy. And then, even the tight end and the cornerback, like I just feel like this roster is really shaping up. And, we've gotten good play last year out of a 6th round pick, Darius Muasau. We even got a little bit out of Trey Hawkins. So I have a little bit of confidence that even these 7th rounders, maybe we'll get a little bit something out of. And if that's the best case that we get out of those, I don't even care because I feel really good about the other players that we got. I feel like the value for them was incredible. And I give Joe Schoen credit for really sitting back and waiting and letting the players fall to him instead of, shopping hungry and doing something drastic and moving up to get these guys. So I'm really thrilled. I hope that it translates on the field, but overall, I feel like the Giants are in a really good spot right now. And I give Joe Schoen a lot of credit. I think he did a really nice job.
Awesome. Anthony, I know I don't want to say you've come around on Joe Schoen because when we started this show about 6 months ago, you were.
I think he's come around.
You were at his throat with good reason. But Anthony, I mean, you've said you thought he's done a good job this offseason. How would you view his draft?
Listen, I judge on a case-by-case basis, so I can't say that I've come around, but I can say that he knocked this draft out of the park, and that I'm really excited and I'm really happy with what Joe Schoen did. Obviously, I've earned my reputation as being rather critical of Joe Schoen, and I'm okay with that because the Giants went 3-14 last year, so we all had reason to be critical of the New York Giants and especially of the guy running the New York Giants, but he had a strong draft class last year, and I would say this one is equally as strong, if not stronger, and I want to highlight one moment from this year's draft that really excited me. And if I were to come around on Joe Schoen, it would be for this reason. What did I say all offseason long? I want this team to go BPA in the draft, right? I was complaining because in the past, they've often drafted for need. And even when they drafted good players while drafting for need, they still left some value on the table. It wasn't the right process. This time around, the perfect example of going BPA was right there for Joe Schoen, and he did the right thing. It was round 4, entering day 3 of the draft. The Giants are picking 105, and they have an option here. Do they take the best player available, which is running back Cam Skattebo, or do they draft for need and take Purdue offensive lineman Marcus Bowe? Well, they went ahead and took BPA. They landed Skattebo, and what was the result? One whole round later, the guy that they would have drafted out of need, Marcus Bowe, ended up being on the board for them. And that's why you always draft BPA, because you never know how the board will fall. And maybe you go BPA now, and the guy you wanted out of need is going to land in your lap the next round anyway. And that's exactly what happened for the New York Giants. It's what happens to the Eagles all the time. It's what happens for the Lions. You always go with the best player on your board and watch the rest of it fall into place. That's what Joe Schoen did this time around, and that's why he not only landed a potential starter in round 1, 2 of them in round 1, a potential starter in round 3, potential starter in round 4, and a potential starter in round 5. So an absolutely phenomenal draft class. I can't praise it enough, and I think it's the perfect example, again, of why you always go BPA, and I'm happy that Joe Schoen is learning from his mistakes, finally made that decision, and again, knocked it out of the park with this draft class. Super excited about it.
Chris, you and I obviously covered the draft this weekend, as we do ever have done since we drafted Daniel Jones, which of course everybody remembers the infamous reactions we had to that. We didn't have that type of reaction all this weekend, Chris. How do you feel he did overall?
I'll take Anthony's point even a step further. He talked about how Schoen drafted it exclusively for BPA. You said it started at round 4. It started at round 1 with pick number 3 overall. I said all along that I thought the New York Giants were going to go quarterback there because Joe Schoen was going to try to save his job. He went BPA. There's undeniable. A lot of people thought he was going to go quarterback there. He ended up staying true to his draft board throughout the entirety of the draft start to finish. And yeah, it's too early to grade the draft. Like, we don't know how these players are going to turn out. Injuries could be a factor. Players could disappoint. We all realize that. But I think it's nearly impossible to come out of this draft not being optimistic about the potential of this draft class. And Joe Schoen knocked it out of the park. He matched BPA with need. Every guy they brought in was a huge need. We needed to fill out the running back core. Scadaboo certainly wasn't, Scadabo, I should say, certainly wasn't as big of a need as Bo was, because we need to shore up that offensive line, but it was a need nevertheless. We get Darius Alexander. We all knew that was a massive need on the interior defensive line. He was an early day 2 prospect. We ended up getting him late day 2. You get Jackson Dart. We'll see with that one, right? But we all understood why they did it. They viewed him as the best quarterback available. They needed a quarterback. And yeah, I'm super excited, man. I'm super excited about this draft and the prospects of the New York Giants going forward. I think we could have one of the top 7-8 defenses in the league if Shane Bowen doesn't ruin it. I mean, we have talent on all 3 phases of that defense now, and we got what we hope is the quarterback of the future. And Anthony, it's funny, you and me, we said it on Twitter collectively leading into day 3. We both wanted, at least I think you said, we both wanted Marcus Bowe at 105. We ended up getting him at 154 after they took Scadabo. So I was neck and neck between those 2 guys there. Those were the 2 players I wanted. The Giants ended up getting both of them. So I don't know how you can come out of this draft being upset if you're a Giants fan, at least right now. Talk to me in 2 years. Let's see how it plays out. But right now, it feels damn good to be a Giants fan.
No question about it. By the way, if you guys are watching on YouTube, as always, thank you so much. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribe. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Music, if you could give us a 5-star review on Apple, that'd be great. And if you haven't listened to us on those media outlets, they're in the description below. So you can check us out if you want to watch, replay, or whatever. And or you're listening in the car, whatever you want to, wherever you're listening, you can check us out on those media outlets. I'm with you guys. I also want to do this really quick. I just want to say shout out to my guy Adams, man. I know you're watching. My coworker Adams. I'm gonna give him a shout out. I know he was very happy with the draft as well. So big shout out to him. He said, "Hey, can you mention me?" I said, "I got you, brother. Don't worry about it." So big shout out to him. Also, I can't tell you. I don't know if I've ever actually been. I don't want to say like excited about a draft, but yeah, it was amazing because I think my favorite. I mean, Abdul Carter, great. No question about it. Chris and I were very enamored of the guy, watching him play against Notre Dame. We thought he was absolutely phenomenal. But I can't tell you how much I love Cam Scadaboo. I can't tell you how happy I was that the Giants got him because I didn't know where he was going to be mocked. But when I watched the Peach Bowl, I can remember watching with my wife, who's not really the biggest football fan. She's like, "That guy's really good." And I'm like, I was just watching going, he's just a football player. Like, I'm like, the Giants need a guy like that. And I'm thinking maybe he's a second round talent. Because again, I didn't watch Arizona State, but he just runs angry. And we need attitude here. And he brings a little bit of attitude in the backfield. You know, you're talking about winning in the trenches. Cam Scadaboo is a guy that can win in the trenches by himself. You know, I mean, he just runs hard. He's a guy that's going to run through arm tackles. He's a guy that's going to get you third down shorts. He's a guy that's going to get you, a touchdown on third down and goal. Because you guys know we have struggled as a team getting third down and 1. How many times have we stopped on 3rd and 1 for a loss? And I'm not saying that was Barkley's fault, but a lot of times Barkley may not have run straight ahead. Maybe he's trying to make an extra move, running sideways. Scadaboo is not going to run sideways. He's going to run straight at you. He wants to run through you. He looks for contact. It's a great combination with Tyrone Tracy. And all your points, we didn't know when Chris and I were like, we could go Bo or Scadaboo here. I even retweeted it with Patty. I said, they got to go Bo or Scadaboo here, right? They ended up getting both. You can't really get better than this. And the fact that when Chris and I were doing this draft, we were picking these guys in the 4th and 5th, and it never, ever happens. We're like, they should go here, and that's what they did. Yep. Yeah. So, Joe Schoen, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. We know you were taking our advice.
I've said it, on this show several times. He's the easiest guy to mock draft for. Look at the top 30 chart, and Joe Schoen is going to pick guys from that. And sure enough, 6 out of his 7 picks were top 30 visits. His first 5 picks were all top 30 visits. It's pretty obvious when it comes to Joe Schoen, and you don't know which of the top 30 visits, but they're going to come from that list. And Dad, we're all thrilled, I think, that the Giants ended up with the guys that they did. I think there's a lot of reason for hope, And you couple that with the job he did in free agency, which we all thought he did a really good job there with the players he was able to bring in. So I think, at least right now, the offseason looks really encouraging.
Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but you guys know after every draft, the media outlets give your team a grade. And I'm just going to go through these. I don't think I've ever seen, I'm just going to say this. The experts, the Giants are Dean's List, man. They were Dean's List, okay? Just a quick couple ones. Sports Illustrated's Gilberto Manzano, A+. NFL.com's Chad Reuter says day 1, grade A, grade 2, A-, grade 3, A. Sporting News' Vinny Iyer, grade A. The Ringer's Danny Kelly, A. CBS Sports' Chris Trapasso, grade A. Washington Post's Mark Masca, A. Bleacher Report, A. Ryan Dunleavy, A. Art Stapleton, A. Mel Kiper, A-. That's probably because we took Dart and Osher Sanders.
100%.
Nate Davis, A-. Pro Football Focus, A-. Associated Press's Rob, I don't know if you say that, Maddie. He was drinking. He gave us a B+. That's the only B I saw. It's A's and A+ all across the board from so many different media outlets. He killed this draft. And yes, we have to hope that it translates onto the field. With that said, Anthony, do you have a favorite that he took? What was your favorite? If you had to pick one, what do you think is your favorite pick?
I think it's Jackson Dart. I've been talking about Jackson Dart since January as the quarterback prospect that I thought was the sleeper of the draft class. I was really excited when the Giants, I heard the buzz that they were really into him, because I think with Jackson Dart, I really think with the Giants, what it is a perfect situation for a quarterback now. We've talked on this show how in 2019, when they drafted Daniel Jones, first of all, they overdrafted him. He should have been taken 6 overall. Yeah. And then second of all, they totally messed up his development with all the changes at offensive coordinator and head coach, the bad offensive line, the bad receivers, and the fact that he was playing through all of that beginning in week 3 of his NFL career. He shouldn't have been in the lineup that early, and it stunted his growth and it ruined his development. But I think that they now have a situation with the cute dog now appearing on screen. They have a situation with 2 great veteran quarterbacks. Russell Wilson's a future Hall of Famer. What more could you ask for from a mentor? And you've got another good mentor and a great locker room presence in Jameis Winston. There's no rush to get Jackson Dart on the field. So all of the things that he needs to learn. I know everybody's seen the John Gruden quarterback camp. He doesn't know what a snap count is, right? He doesn't know a real NFL snap count. Well, now he's got a full year to sit behind 2 veterans and learn. And then on top of that, it's just a great opportunity where I think the fit perfectly matches in terms of the skill set that Jackson Dart brings to the table, being a quarterback who is just exactly what Brian Daboll looks for. He's got plus mobility. His best trait as a passer is throwing the ball downfield with accuracy. And I know people give him crap for running that RPO style, collegiate, style offense with Lane Kiffin, but that offense requires fast processing, really quick reads. And I know it's just first reads, maybe not third reads, but still quick trigger passes and timing on those quick reads, which if you've listened to the show, I've complained endlessly about Daniel Jones's inability to hit those first reads quickly enough. So all the things that Brian Daboll looks for: quick passing, deep downfield accuracy, mobility, and leadership as well from the quarterback position. Jackson Dart checks all of the boxes. So, yeah, maybe he shouldn't have been a 25th overall pick. Maybe his value is more like a top 50 pick, but it's the quarterback position. You're going to have to overdraft it to some extent. And the Giants, they didn't give up a whole lot to get back in the first round. Look at what the Falcons gave up. That was ridiculous. The Giants didn't give up a whole lot. They got a quarterback with upside who perfectly fits the scheme and is walking into the perfect environment to sit, grow, develop, and take over in 2026. So it's my favorite pick because of the process, because of the environment that they've built for Dart. And I think when you look at the future of this team, the resources that they have, this environment should only look better this time next year when we're talking about Dart taking over full-time as the Giants starting quarterback. Then it's just up to him to make it all work. But at least they've put a proper team in place for their rookie quarterback. So love the process. And again, really like Jackson Dart. He was my sleeper quarterback all the way back in January. He rose up the boards as he should have because he's a really talented player. And I also just really like his swagger and demeanor. And that's the last point that I'll make. Man, was I tired of a plank of wood sitting at the podium every week for the last 6 years. Now he got a quarterback with some personality, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, he kills big cats with his bare hands. I don't know if you saw that picture on Twitter. But I'm sorry about the dog, Anthony. My son just loves to show the dog off. Every time I'm down here, he wants to show the dog off. He loves the dog. Chris, did you? And by the way, I hope that when you guys just listen to Anthony talk, I hope that gives you a little bit more confidence in Jackson Dart. If there was one pick that I think the fan base was kind of about, it was him. But to Anthony's point, I mean, we needed a quarterback, and you probably got maybe the second best quarterback in the draft. You weren't getting Cameron Ward, so he was at the very least the third best. Chris, did you have a favorite pick? I know you like the 300-pound man.
I had a favorite pick. First, I got to start with a long because Anthony said he couldn't stand Daniel Jones, so I had to just throw that in there with the way that he always talks to the media. But no, I agreed with a lot of what you said about. He's not my favorite pick. I'm very excited that we have a new quarterback, and I'm really excited to see what he looks like in preseason. But what I really loved with what they did with the Dart pick, before I get to my favorite pick, is, like you hammered home, how they have set him up for success. You look at the situation he's been thrown into in comparison to a Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones' first year, they got rid of the play caller that hired him, that was widely responsible for drafting him in the first place. The fact that Dart's more than likely going to sit the majority of next year, all but guarantees Dable and Shane will likely be back. He'll get to play another year in the same offense that he's learned to grasp from the bench for almost a full season, and he's getting to learn behind a Hall of Fame quarterback. Daniel Jones was afforded that as well, but of course, we both agreed, Anthony, last week, they threw Daniel Jones in way too soon. They're not going to do that with Jackson Dart, especially with him being the 25th pick. So I think he's in an ideal situation to grow and learn, especially with a play caller like Dable. So the fit makes a lot of sense, and hopefully it works out, and I think it very well could. But my favorite pick, maybe it's like the easy way out because he was the third overall pick, but I said it all along. Abdul Carter, in my opinion, was the best player in this entire draft class. You insert him into this defense now with that defensive line, and I posted it on Twitter. Carl Banks retweeted. He said he made a podcast because my tweet jacked him up or whatever he said. But you look at that. You look at what he brings to that defensive line. Well, listen, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We all know that you have to double decks every single week. You have to. Otherwise, he's going to maul your interior offensive line. Well, you're going to double decks. Abdul Carter is going to destroy you. And if you double both of them, Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns are going to have an open lane to the quarterback. So I look at what the Abdul Carter pick is going to do for this defense, especially with the improved secondary. I don't know if the secondary is going to be great, but it's going to be a lot better than it was last year with the additions that we made in free agency with Holland and Paulson Adebo. Deonte Banks now playing cornerback too. He's not lined up on the best wide receiver every week. I think this defense is going to be tremendous, and I think the biggest reason for that, it ultimately is going to be Abdul Carter is going to make everybody so much better. I think he's a huge difference maker, and I love all the picks. I love Scatabo. I love so many of the picks, but I got to go with Abdul Carter. I thought he was the best player, and we get that. We get our identity back. When you think about the New York Giants historically, you think about the pass rush. Well, now every team in the league, when they play the Giants every Sunday for the next 4, 5, 6 years, they're going to be thinking about our pass rush.
Speaking of Carl Banks, I think when he was talking about you, I think they added Pepper Johnson to the.
They did, yeah.
So I think that's part of it. So now he's got to get in there. He's got to get Gary Reasons in there, and he's got to get Harry Carson. Got to get LT. Then you can. Then I'm reliving my childhood right there because that was a hell of a team. Adriana, did you have a favorite pick that the Giants had during this draft?
I really love the Darius Alexander pick. That was a guy that when I had done my mocks, it was someone that I wanted the Giants to get. I think there's a lot of really great things about him. We've talked a lot about how Dexter Lawrence needs some help, but I didn't realize that this guy, and when we talk about personality with Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter, the guys that they brought in are certifiably insane. And I mean that in the best way. Like, I have seen some of the funniest tweets about these players and their personalities. Like, Jackson Dart runs through people's. He's never slid a day in his life. The tight end tattoos himself. Marcus Bowe said that he can't wait to what did he say? He can't wait to like kill people on the other side of the line. And Darius Alexander said that he wants the players that he goes up against to be so bad going against him. Like, he wants to beat them to the ground so badly that when they get to the sideline, their coach has nothing to say to them because they can't make them better, and that they lose the will to play football.
That's amazing.
Like, I read that and I was like, this guy is a literal psychopath, and I fucking love him.
And you didn't even mention Scatabo. I read that when he was a kid growing up, he ran into like telephone poles or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Abdul Carter one was that, like, he's so insane. He called up the best player in football to see if he would unretire his jersey. Like, the players that they brought in are
Yeah.
crazy, and I love it. Like, we talked a lot how it seems like there hasn't been a lot of personality. And I think sometimes, like, when there's too much personality, you might have an issue with the leadership aspect of things. But I really feel like, when Dable has talked in and out about how he wants dogs on the team, the guys that they drafted last year and the guys that they drafted this year are perfect examples of that. They're all leaders. They are all tough as nails. They love football and they can't wait to beat the shit out of people. And that's what I want on this team. And when we talk about the Lawrence Taylors and the Harry Carsons and the Carl Banks of the world, that's what they did. They plowed through people and beat their opponents to the point where they never came back from it. So I'm excited that we're getting back to that, like, hard-nosed, tough football team. The Big Blue Wrecking Crew finally feels like we're back. And this defense, I think, is going to be so fun to watch this year.
I can tell you again. I know I mentioned this a number of times that I'm obviously older than all these. I'm like more than twice Anthony's age, which always makes you feel great. But I mean, I grew up watching that Big Blue Wrecking Crew, that lunch pail bunch with Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, Harry Carson, Gary Reasons, Pepper Johnson, Leonard Marshall, Jim Burt. Like, I remember those guys. And the Giants, even back in the 80s, and they've always been predicated on that. That's Giants football. I mean, you talk about not having an identity. This team is getting back to the identity. You have a guy in Tyrone Tracy who obviously can do a lot of different things. He's flashy. He can get a big run. He makes people miss. And then you add the attitude in Cam Scatterbo. You beefed up your trenches on both sides of the football. You got guys, like I said, we're talking about guys that are crazy. The quarterback is evil fucking Knievel, as John Gruden calls him, because he is got a little bit of a screw loose. And in this division, we have gotten our ass kicked up front for years by Philadelphia and Dallas because they have that attitude. We're going to knock you on your ass. Well, I think that this draft class has that type of attitude. We're going to go out there. We're going to knock you on your ass. We don't care who you are. We don't care what you've done. We're here now. We're going to make our own mark on this division. And yes, I love that Abdul Carter. I love the pick. I think he's going to be incredible. There's 156. That's it. It would not look right. Anybody else running, I can't even envision that number running around in MetLife Stadium. It doesn't. No. There's 156 as Lawrence Taylor. There'll never be no Lawrence Taylor. I don't care what anybody tells me. I don't care. There's one LT. That's it. I don't know what number Abdul Carter's going to wear, but whatever it is, hopefully it's retired in 15 to 20 years. But I just love it, and I do think that this draft class tells you the Giants, to me, drafted a lot of football players. We haven't had football players here in a while. And I do think that the worst thing that happened to this team in 2022 was winning a playoff game because it kind of messed everything up. We really started rebuilding when they got it. They really didn't even get a chance to start because they drafted so late and it came in such a bad cap situation. And then we fell off. Everybody wanted to criticize the guy. Well, listen, I think we hit rock bottom. And I think last year had a great draft class. He's getting more cap space. To Anthony's point, I think he's learning from his mistakes and he's doing what he's supposed to do. And really, unless you're just the most cynical or pessimistic Giants fan, I don't know how you could watch what Joe Schoen did this offseason, this draft, and go, he sucks and he's a terrible GM. Now, granted, they have to win, and that's the only way you're going to appease some people in the fan base. I'm not sitting here telling you we're winning 10 or 11 games. I don't know how you can't sit here and go, I think we're moving in the right direction, because I think we are. You know who doesn't think we're moving in the right direction? Vegas. So just want to say a big shout out to BetUS TV for powering the stream. We always love them coming on board and powering the stream. You go over there, check out BetUS TV on YouTube. They have a great channel over there, and they have all your latest odds, parlays, props, all this stuff. And one of the odds that they have is the New York Giants. You know, we talked about the long odds that the Giants had to win the Super Bowl. Well, it hasn't changed. As you can see, the Giants are 200 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Now, if you're super excited about the Giants and you think that they can win a Super Bowl, well, hey, you throw $10 in that, they win the Super Bowl, you win $2,000. That's good, right? What's $10? You got $100 to throw around, you 20,000. It's not bad. I'm not going to do it, but somebody might. But listen, Cincinnati went from worst into the Super Bowl. Of course, they got Joe Burrow, so that helps. But my point is, you never know. I can't believe those odds didn't go down, though, if I'm being honest. Maybe in a week or two they do, but I thought Joe Schoen had a great draft. And I'm actually surprised that those odds are still as high, as long as they are. But you never know. You never, ever know. Appreciate you guys. Let's get into some of these questions and super chats. As always, we really appreciate your generosity when it comes to that, guys and gals. Let me pull this up here. First one is from Dean. He says, shout out to y'all. I appreciate all the coverage you have done individually and collectively. I really like how our roster's coming together. Let's go. Doggy? Snoring down there?
Yep. Snoozing away.
Dean, thank you for all your support, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I think you gotta be pretty excited about what we did. I do. I like the way our roster's coming together too. Joe Shane's I think Joe Shane maybe a little bit tougher than we think, because usually you put together a team after your own heart, kind of after your own personality. We always talk about how a team embeds the coach's personality is embedded in the team. Daboll's kind of got a little edge to him. I think he's got some players that got an edge to him too now. I'm excited to see some Giants football. Hopefully, I'm excited when we do this show around Halloween too.
Yeah, I think at the very least, we can feel like there are guys on this team who are going to be fighting until the end to win. And I think for some of us, probably as fans, like from what we've seen over the last couple of years, if it feels like towards the end of games, it feels like they've given up a little bit. Like they just know there's no coming back from it. There's no way to turn it around. You know, when we're talking about the draft and Halloween, it feels like some of the players kind of feel like that too. And that's one of the reasons I love Brian Burns, is I felt like he was one of the players who really was not like that at all. So I'm sure that he is also probably one of the people who's really excited about a lot of these players that they have brought in, because they are so determined to just focus on winning. And even Russ Wilson, I mean, I think he's a perfect example of that too. He might not be as like fiery and intense and outspoken or whatever, but you know that he loves to win and he's a competitor. So that I think is going to make us feel like even if they only win 7 games this season, I think that they're going to do a lot better job of keeping it close. And we're going to be able to see that towards the end of games, that they're really giving it their all. And guys like Brian Burns, who played last year through injury, I think we're going to see more of that this year. And I also think that we are never, I hope under this regime, as long as this continues, we're not going to see what Tay Banks did. That's not going to fly. Not when you have guys in the locker room that you're going to have to answer to. And I think there was a little bit of that last year with some of the veterans, but I just think that there wasn't enough of it. And, you know, Malik talked a lot about how he really wants to win and he was always so determined. And we saw that in his play and whatever last year. That I feel like there's going to be more players on the same page that are in it to win it. And they're all going to give it their all week in and week out. And, you know, some of the stupid shit that we saw and heard, I really don't think is going to fly anymore. And I'm really excited about that because, you know, like I said, even if they don't win a lot of games, I think there's going to be a lot more competition and we're going to overall see a better football team.
I agree.
Yeah, without question. I said in 2022, winning builds culture, man. If the Giants can win a couple games early like they did in 2022, I feel like it gives the team confidence that they can beat other teams. And confidence goes a long way in the NFL. It really does. It's something I always talk about outside of the physical attributes that Daniel Jones lacked, or, you know, throwing the ball behind the receiver, waiting for the guy to come open and delivering the ball late on timing routes, everything else. I never felt like Daniel Jones had confidence, with good reason. I mean, they didn't set him up for success, but you know, he never had confidence, in my opinion. And I think confidence goes a long way. And I think when you start winning, you do become confident in yourself, not just yourself, but your teammates. And I think I feel like the Giants didn't have confidence in their team, like the people around them. I think they need that as a team. And I think if, like I said, you win a couple early games, you're going to get that, you're going to gel, and then you go forward from there. And this time we're doing it with a bunch of young guys, not just a bunch of guys that were kind of thrown together like they did in 2022. So I'm definitely excited to see what this team does this year. Like I said, I hope that excitement continues past Halloween, but right now it feels pretty good. I feel like he did a good job. Nick, thank you, brother. He says Maurice Jones-Drew said before the draft, Scadaboo was his third-rated running back, called him a football player. Can't wait to see him on the field.
It's funny he said that because I think I said this to Bad Dog while we were doing the stream. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Maurice Jones-Drew. His running style reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew. So naturally, it would make sense that Maurice Jones-Drew likes him because I think as a running back, they're pretty similar. Maurice Jones-Drew is a big, more stocky, but I think Scadabo is pretty stocky as well. But I think they have some similarities in terms of their style as a running back.
They're bowling balls.
Yeah.
And you know me, I'm a bowler, so I know all about that. But they just mow down defenders. Scadabo actually posted a picture of him on Twitter in a Giants jersey. It was white, and I just put on there. I'm like, I could just envision some defender's blood all over that jersey because it's the way he runs. He bludgeons people, and I love that. I like I said, I think we need that attitude. Like he runs with rage. And I'm looking forward to that more than anything. I want to see him just kick somebody's ass. So
He's definitely
he also was number 3 on PFF's big board too. And out of all of the running backs in the country last year, they had him as number 1 in yards per route run, meaning out of all of the running backs that came out of the backfield as receivers, he was by far and away the best. So that's why they had him 3rd in the class as well. So not just Maurice Jones-Drew, there was a lot of analysts who were really high on Scadabo. And that's why I'm so excited to have him.
Yeah. Great. He also is the only running back since CMC in college to have 1,500 plus rushing yards and 500 plus receiving yards. And I saw another stat today that said, that he was the second running back behind Ashton Genty this season for the most scrimmage yards per game or average scrimmage yards per game. And his was 178, which is absurd. So he was number 2 behind Genty. And the fact that they got him at 105 is crazy. I think he's going to be on Kyle Brandt's angry runs a lot this year.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I hope.
He had over 100 broken tackles last year too. I saw that too. Scadabo.
I know this. So when we were doing the draft, I said this, Anthony, you probably know about this, but I don't think you were alive when this was actually going on. You guys remember the All Madden team? Cam Scadabo is an All Madden guy. That's all I can think of when I watch him play, watch him run. That John Madden loved those type of players, and Cam Scadabo will be on that thing every year. Because Madden just loved those tough, gritty, just, grind it out. And just, like I said, they, as a running back, delivering the blow. I'm just really excited about it. I didn't think the Giants were going to be able to get him. So I was super excited. I can't believe he fell to day 3. And then on top of it, I could not believe Bo fell. I could not believe it could not have worked out any better for the Giants than it did. So hopefully it translates to the field. But right now, like I said, I'm pretty excited. Don't get a lot of excitement in the Giants fan base, but they got me this time. Joe Shane, don't do it to me again. I can't think of their word. Bob, thank you. He said, this is something I did want to talk to you guys about. He says, I heard Shedeur try to bring a camera guy and his entourage into an interview with the Combine. If so, not a good look for him. No wonder Shiloh fired his dad. I didn't know that happened. You guys... Anthony, I know you said about a month beforehand that he may fall to the second round. Did any of you envision him falling all the way to the 5th round? And Cleveland took Dylan Gabriel before they took Shedeur Sanders, and then they took Shedeur Sanders. I told you last stream, Cleveland don't know what the hell they're doing. If there's one team that has no clue, it's Cleveland. Can you guys believe he went?
No, I don't think anybody thought he was going to drop to the 5th round. Maybe late 2nd round, very early 3rd round, like at the latest as the draft got closer. But I didn't envision going down to the 5th round. As we talked about last show, I think it was more than just his talent. I think he was a 1st round talent, especially in this draft class where it wasn't a plentiful amount of quarterbacks worthy to be taken in the 1st round. I think it had to do with the interviews, and that's everything that came out. And this is one of the examples that Bob Wells talks about. I think the interviews played a massive factor into why he fell as far as he did. But hopefully it works out for him. I have nothing against the guy. I hope he does well in Cleveland. Probably won't. It's Cleveland, but I hope he does.
Yeah. The thing that's so bizarre to me about the Browns, and I know the whole draft, he's not the only player that fell. Obviously, he's the only one that was talked about as much as he did, but I thought it was interesting, and maybe it's just because it's the first year that I've paid so much attention to so many draft picks, but I thought it was interesting how so many players fell out of the 1st round. Like there were a lot who were really projected to go round 1 and that didn't, like a lot of defensive players like Nick Manwari from South Carolina and what's his name? Azariah Thomas, like 2 guys that I loved fell to the second round. And then of course Shedeur and some other guys. But the thing about the Browns that really just doesn't make any sense to me, they could have stayed put at 2, taken Hunter, and then at 33, 36, or literally any other one of their draft picks, taken Shedeur Sanders. Like, I don't understand. I know we all get on Shane for a while that it feels like they don't have a plan. Joe Shane looks like fucking Howie Roseman next to the Browns GM Berry, because they clearly have no idea what the hell is going on over there. Then picking Gabriel over him, I don't know what went on there, but it's so bizarre. But it is interesting. There's been a lot more that's come out about Shedeur since then, that the interviews didn't go well. I've also heard about this cameraman thing. I don't think he's as bad of a football player that he should have been drafted as bad as he was. And I know that with some guys, you can say, well, I'll deal with some of their personal antics as long as their talent makes up for it. And I could see that side of things. But I find it so hard to believe that his interviews were that bad. Everyone hates Deion Sanders as much as it seems to be in the NFL. And he's that bad of a football player to go in the 5th round. It just doesn't make any sense to me that all of those things collectively were that bad. Like that's historically bad. And I just wish someone I saw on TikTok today was like, we need the Browns to do Hard Knocks this offseason, because it's the one time that I would actually want to know what is going on with the Browns organization with these players. And then I think we would finally get some more information as to what Shedeur is really like, maybe behind closed doors. But I don't know. I kind of thought that a lot of people in the NFL had more respect or liked Deion Sanders a lot more than maybe it seems that they actually do. I don't know.
Anthony, could you believe he fell all the way? Was it 150? No, not 154.
144.
I remember where he got drafted, but can you believe he fell that far in the draft?
Now that it's happened, I can believe it, just because we've heard so much and we've seen so many stories online about how he was disrespectful in interviews and how he was unprepared for interviews, there's speculation within the league that he purposely tanked specific interviews because he didn't want to go to specific teams. Like, now, after getting all this information, I can believe it. At the time, I couldn't believe it. And I said it at the time, and I'll say it again. He's not a 5th round talent. He's much better than that. That's one of the steals of the draft. To get that talent in the 5th round is a steal for the Browns. Now, obviously, there's questions as to whether or not they really even wanted him, considering they drafted Dillon Gabriel over him. And then they just kind of settled with taking Shedeur later on in the draft. So whatever. But I think you look at their quarterback room, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. I think he's got a legitimate chance of starting games for the Browns this year. Like, I don't know if that's crazy to say, but like, I mean, Flacco's 40, Pickett's Pickett. I think Shedeur is better than Dillon Gabriel. Like, I don't know. He's got a chance to play some games. So it's just going to be up to him, his dedication and his ability to silence some of the noise, I think, is just what it comes down to. Because really how I understood the whole situation is, if a player is just going to be a backup, and when you're drafted day 2 or day 3 as a quarterback, you're considered to just be a backup, why bring in all the unnecessary attention just for a backup? We can go find a different backup if that's all we're getting is just a backup. So I think that was kind of the line of logic that fell through NFL teams' minds. But I think the bigger shock, not the bigger shock, because this was a shock, but the storyline that not enough people are talking about in terms of quarterbacks falling down the board, Quinn Ewers went all the way in the 7th round. He was the last quarterback taken in this year's draft. That actually blows my mind because he's better than a 7th round prospect as well. That's also great value for the Dolphins. And what really sucks about that, not to go too far off the beaten path, but for Quinn Ewers, a guy who had an extra year of college eligibility left, I mean, he like just walked away from generational wealth on accident. He thought he was going to be like a top 100 pick, I think. Goes 230 or something. He could have went back, transferred in the portal, gotten millions of dollars to play for a different university, and now he's just going to be probably a practice squad quarterback. So that was a major mess up. So I think more people should talk about that. I actually feel really bad for Quinn Ewers.
It's actually funny because Quinn Ewers, like going into the year, he was like a Heisman candidate. I don't know how he fell that far down. He's had some injury issues, of course. But yeah, I agree with you. I didn't think he was the best quarterback in this class, but I definitely thought he was better than a 7th round talent. As far as Shedeur Sanders goes, I mean, I have nothing against him. I feel like maybe, and I've talked about this with a couple of guys at work, that I feel like Shedeur Sanders is immature. He's a kid. I get it. And I was a kid too, stupid, that thought I knew it all. He might have had an arrogance about him, an entitlement. His dad's Deion. We all know Deion Sanders. Well, Deion was uber talented. That was first and foremost. Shedeur is not uber talented like his dad was at the position. But Deion always had that swag, that arrogance about him. And it's one thing to have that and to back it up. But when you're Shedeur Sanders, you can't go into interviews and act like you know more than the person, giving you the interview. And I feel like he just felt like, I don't need to study. I don't need to practice. I don't need to throw at the combine. I don't need to do shit. I'm Shedeur Sanders. Deion's my dad. I'm automatically getting picked top 3 because I'm Shedeur and I deserve it. And what do it's just, I'm entitled to it. And he's going to learn it's not. Hopefully he learned a little humility and he can take a step back and he can become a really good football player because he does have the talent to do it. But there's more to playing quarterback than just talent alone. He's going to have to learn that if he's going to succeed.
I think it's more that, at least in my opinion, than the talent aspect. I do think he has talent. He's not uber talented like Deion is. Deion was a world-class athlete, right? Yeah. He was a tremendous baseball player, tremendous athlete in the NFL. But I do think Shedeur Sanders has talent. I think it's the quarterback position. To go into a draft process and acting like you're hot shit. That's that position specifically. You could probably get away with that if you're a running back. You get away with that probably if you're a wide receiver.
Defensive end.
Defensive end. If you're a quarterback, they want a quarterback that's going to be first in, last out. He's going to be the leader of the football team. That's a mental position as much as it is a physical position. And if you go in there not prepared, not taking the interview seriously, I think that's massive at the quarterback position. If Shedeur Sanders was a good cornerback prospect, probably doesn't see his draft stock drop as much as it did. The quarterback position, that is just as important as anything else. The impression you set in those interviews.
I think as a quarterback, I think more than any other position, you have to show that you're willing to take instruction. Yeah. And when you go in there and tell them, oh, no, you're wrong, or you're wrong, you're obviously not willing to take instruction. And that, that's going to kill you as a quarterback. It doesn't matter how talented you are, because I don't think anybody would argue Kyler Murray is head and shoulders more talented than Shedeur Sanders. I don't think anybody would argue that. But Kyler Murray also has something in his contract that says you need to put in a certain amount of film study. So even the best, even the most talented guys, Kyler Murray went number 1 overall, and I loved him. I'm a Sooner fan. I loved Kyler Murray, and I thought Kyler Murray would be a superstar. I still think Kyler Murray is really good. But it just goes to show you no matter how good you are, you have to work. So when you're kind of you're good, but you're not this uber talented guy, you really have to be able to take instruction, take a step back and say, yeah, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to teach. I want to get better at what I do, as opposed to I'm already good enough. Put me in there. I'm going to be, whatever I'm going to be. Confidence, yes. Arrogance, fine line between confidence and arrogance. Shedeur learns that, he'll be just fine. If he doesn't, he's going to be the next Johnny Manziel. I mean, that's just what it's going to be. Lou, thank you, brother. Someone called Scatterboo Rondane.
Hope not. Hope not.
I didn't like Rondane. But the difference is Scatterboo was a 4th round pick. Dane was
exactly
old guy coming out of Wisconsin that was going to be great. And
I'm not gonna lie, I was excited as a kid when we drafted Rondane. Like, he was tremendous in college, but it didn't work out in the pros. So I hope he's wrong. But like you said, it's a 4th round pick. It's not 12th overall. We're right. Rondane.
Don't forget Tyron Wheatley. That was another guy that was supposed to be the great guy, and that didn't work out either. So, Sam, thank you, my friend. He says, as I said on Fireside Giants, Joe learned from his mistakes from last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this.
Shout out to Sam, long-term Fireside Giants viewer. Always happy to see you. Follow over to Giants Collective, but he's been saying that a lot in the comment section. He's been really big on that, and I actually do agree. I think that Joe Schoen has had a lot of mistakes in the past, and he's kind of brushed them off. He's kind of, fighting with that extra life here in 2025. I really thought, a lot of us thought that he could have gotten the boot this past offseason, but I'm glad that he was here for this offseason because he did a great job, and I don't know how many GMs would have sat in his position with his back against the wall and actually achieved what he achieved in free agency and the draft. So I think he did a great job.
And sometimes I think we forget, especially a guy that has never done this job before. He's young. Look at how we forget, guys. We remember, Bad Dog. We used to say it. Eagles fans used to say it. they were ready to run Howie Roseman out of town. They said he was the worst GM in the sport for about 2 or 3 years there early on while he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not saying he's going to be Howie Roseman. My point is, men can mature in their positions, especially guys that are inexperienced. They could learn and grow, learn from their mistakes, and get better. There's no reason to think Joe Schoen can't do that as well.
I think Adriana mentioned this a few weeks, like after the free agency period, that he did learn from mistakes. You know, you let a guy like Xavier McKinney walk, but then you bring in a Javon Holland because you try to replace a guy. So maybe I shouldn't let that guy walk. Let me go in here and get a true leader in this secondary because it was obviously missed. And obviously, you know, I wouldn't say that we have a true leader running back because our guys are very inexperienced there. But it's good to see that he's like, I take it, you know, took a step back and said, I got to replace these guys. And he did. You know, last year he really didn't. I don't know if he could have, but this year he did. So that's the whole thing, man. Everybody on the face of the earth makes mistakes. I don't care what you do for a living. You have to learn from your mistakes. To err is to be human. He's made mistakes, and it does seem like he's learning from them. And again, for Joe Schoen and our sake as fans, let's hope it translates onto the field because I feel like he deserves it. I feel like when your back's against the wall and you know your job's on the line, it's easy to do what Gettleman did and just go out there and sign Kyle Rudolph, even though we knew his foot was – it don't matter. I got to get the guy. Sign Kenny Galladay to a $70 million deal and just, you know, reach for guys and then trade back in the draft. I don't know what the hell the guy was doing. Like, he really didn't have a clue. Joe Schoen was aggressive but not desperate, and I really hope it pays off for him because I really do feel like he did a really good job this year.
Yeah.
Lou, thank you. He says, will we see Jackson Dart play any preseason games?
Yeah, I think we could because we're not going to see Russ. So I think it's probably going to be between Jameis and Dart. And I think that'll give us all a good opportunity to see, you know, and listen, if he does and makes some of the mistakes that he made in college, I hope no one jumps down his throat. And as someone who like didn't completely love the pick at the time, I promise that I will not do that because I don't expect this guy to learn everything in the next couple months. But I think it'll just be a really good opportunity to see how he handles being out there at Daboll's offense. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is not going to be out there. So, you know, they brought in an Ole Miss wide receiver. How is their rapport in Daboll's offense? How do they do with these, you know, backup offensive linemen and backup running backs and everything like that? So I think actually it will make preseason fun to watch because so many of us do not care about preseason, but I think a lot of us love Jameis Winston, at least for the interviews. At the very least, he's going to be entertaining, and we'll see, you know, the beginnings, I hope, of what, you know, Dart could look like in this offense. And you know, I think everyone is going to have to wave goodbye to Tommy DeVito in the practice squad.
Yes. And I'm actually going to take the reverse approach of what you said. I agree with you. I don't want people to be too hard on him. I also don't want people to overreact if he has a strong preseason performance when he's playing against third stringers on defense. And if the Giants start 0-2, start calling to bench Russell Wilson like they did when Eli Manning was the quarterback. I want him to get the opportunity to sit and grow. Fans are going to do what they want to do. But that's a fear of mine as well. I don't want you to overreact to be like, oh, he's got to start week 1. You got to throw him in there week 2, week 3. Let the Giants ease him in. I think it'll be for his best benefit long term.
Well, you know, I think we'll see we'll see another Tommy in preseason. Tommy Fedoni. get him in there now. Plus we'll probably see Cam Scatterboo, I'm sure. But what I want to see from Jackson Dart, guys, in the preseason is what John Gruden told him. Get down.
Yes.
Get down. Learn to, if he doesn't learn anything else in training camp, learn to slide. Please learn to slide. John, thank you. He says, obviously Joe Schoen's picks half the platform, but are you guys open to potentially extending him? Also, thoughts on Micah Parsons envying the Giants line. Well, Audrina actually mentioned extending him, I want to say last show. She mentioned that. But I think that you guys can, I'm not going to speak for you guys. You can have at that.
Not in consideration for me until midway point of the season. If we've got 6 wins through 8 weeks, okay, we can talk about it because I know a lot of GMs and coaches don't like to go into that final year without having a little bit of more long-term security, especially for coaches, because when a coaching staff, like what we saw with Mike McCarthy, that whole staff expired. It wasn't just McCarthy's job who just went kaput. It was like the hundreds of people who worked for Mike McCarthy. So that was bad business by the Dallas Cowboys. And I know Daniel Jeremiah said in the NFL circles that got like a really bad reputation for Dallas, which is like not surprising. But I think that the conversation has to come up if the Giants are winning games this year. But considering the excitement that we had last year, the hope that we had, I mean, that some fans had, I don't know. I got to see it before I believe it. I love Abdul Carter. I love all the picks. Got to see some performance first, and then we can have the conversation about it. I'm more open-minded to it than I was months ago, that's for sure, considering I wanted to give them the boot. But no, I got to see this team win some games before I'm personally open to any sort of extensions.
I agree with you. And I'm somebody that wants Joe Schoen. And I think he will be here in 2026 outside of an absolute catastrophe. But the absolute catastrophe is still a possibility. Like the Giants could have a ton of injuries and they could finish with the first pick. And at that point, you may revert course, let a GM come in here, inherit a good situation with a lot of talented individuals on the team. And then he gets to draft what you would think would be a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. Outside of something like that, I expect Shane and Dable to be back, even if they win 4 or 5 games. But I don't see the need to rush it. I don't see the need to extend him. Let the season play out. Let's see how the defense looks. Let's see how the coaching staff does. Let's see how Dart looks if we get to see him the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. I expect him back in 2026, but I wouldn't extend him yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to kind of see where the team is in the middle of the year. Even if they're 3-6, but they have really competed and are not getting embarrassed. And it's really just because we're not as talented as some of the teams are playing, because we know we're playing some of the best teams in the NFL. But you look like you're getting better. I think they could definitely extend him at that point. But if you're 1-8 and you're losing 40-0 to Dallas, and you're just floundering, it's going to be different. As far as Micah Parsons editing the Giants D line, well, he said, when they got Chauncey Golston, Micah Parsons had a one-word response. He said, "Damn." But Micah, listen, you are more than welcome to come over here and join your teammate from Penn State, Abdul Carter, or I don't know if they were actually teammates. I don't think they played together, but your collegiate, your alumni, I should say. You're more than welcome to come over here. More than be happy, and then you can kill Dak because we know you want to, so you can go after him. Taco Nacho, thank you, says, my only thing is that they truly believe Dart was going to be great. Wouldn't they have just taken him at 3, like the pick? Just wanted your thoughts.
I think we talked about this because Chris said too that, why would you trade back into the first for Shedeur or whoever it was going to be? If you love him, take him at 3. And I get that philosophy. My thought process on it is that they felt like they could get Jackson Dart later in the first round, and they just felt like the value wasn't there at 3, just like with JJ McCarthy. And I think that maybe they liked Jackson Dart more this year. Maybe they felt like they had to get a quarterback this year. I don't know what their reasoning was for doing that this year versus last year, but I do just think that they felt like Abdul Carter was the best player available at 3. We need more pieces on this team to win football games. It's not just going to be about Jackson Dart that is going to get us a future here. We have to win games, and we have to do that now. And to do that, they brought in, the secondary and some players that they brought in free agency, and then they focused on best player available in the draft. I think that's why he also waited and went after guys that he had top 30 visits in and stayed put and didn't, try to move up and try to get his guys because he was freaking out that they weren't going to be there. So I think that it was a value thing. He talks a lot about value. Abdul Carter's the guy at 3, and they must have just really felt like, based on the way that the draft was going, based on the relationships and conversations that he had with other GMs with picks later in the first round, he felt like he was going to be able to move up and get his guy without having to give up that much. I don't know the difference between him and the Atlanta GM. I don't know what worlds they live in. It's clearly not the same. But the Atlanta GM has a history now of 2 drafts in a row of just kind of going rogue. So I guess it's not entirely surprising that he gave up a first round to get to spot 26, which is so insane. And honestly, the Falcons did not get nearly enough shit on draft night as they should have for that. Instead, it was like, oh, well, the Giants are trading back for the quarterback and they didn't take Shedeur. It's like, give the Falcons shit for giving up a first. Joe Schoen gave up 2/3 to get there. Like, that's crazy. Well, and if it works out for Dart, that's nothing in the long run.
Yeah, that was the thing that I was really a big stickler for. Was I wasn't in love with trading up regardless. I'll be honest, going into the draft, but trading up to where we were talking about into the first half of the first round to go up and to get the quarterback made no sense to me because of the cost that it would have been. It would have been similar to the package the Falcons had to give up, possibly even more if you jump from 34 to like 13 or 14. I think the Giants were like, okay, if he drops past the Steelers and he gets in an area where we don't got to have to give up a whole lot, we could still sell a quarterback that we like, that we may be able to build a future with. So I'm not crazy. I'm not that upset. I'm not even upset at all. That's their guy. They went up and got him. They got him for a reasonable price. Had they jumped it to 12 or 13 at that point for what you would have to give up to jump that far up into the first round, I would have said you should have just stayed at 3 and taken the quarterback if you believed in him that much and you were willing to give up that kind of draft compensation. But he kind of fell in their lap and they traded up and they gave up what amounted to be really a 4th round pick when you view it as a comp pick, 99th overall pick, and a future 3rd for a quarterback that they like. Didn't give up a whole lot. You got a quarterback you like. I'm fine with it. Had they jumped into the first half of the first round for the price it would have cost, yeah, I would have said that was stupid. You should have just stayed at 3. But Joe Schoen didn't do that. He was smart. He let it come to him, and they got a guy for a reasonable price.
3 things. Well, 4. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss an episode of Giants Collective. You can also check us out on Apple Music. Leave a 5-star review there if you don't mind. I'm sorry, Apple. Leave a 5-star review there. You can check us out on Amazon Music and Spotify. The links to those shows are down in the description below. We appreciate you listening wherever you're catching us. About him going 3 overall, to Anthony's point, you take the best player available. You never know, the guy you want may be there later. That's definitely a thing there. Also, for me, if you're picking 3rd overall and you're Joe Schoen, you need a guy to come in and make an immediate impact. That guy needs to be a starter from day 1. Jackson Dart was not going to be a starter from day 1. Then that's a big reason why I thought they did that. And let's face it, Abdul Carter was the correct pick at 3. You're not going to be able to replace that guy. You're not going to get that guy at 25 at all. So that's really why I think they did what they did. And they just said, we're going to get the best player available. If Jackson Dart's there, great. If he's not, we just go in a different direction. You know, they had a different plan. And Audron, to answer your question, why didn't the Falcons get shit like the Giants? Because nobody cares about the Falcons. That's why. Nobody cares. They are so irrelevant. Nobody cares. Them and Cleveland ought to just combine franchises and move to Montreal or something. I don't know. They're 2 hapless organizations that have never won a damn thing and probably never will. That's yes, I'm tough on Cleveland. Nobody from Cleveland watches, so I really don't care. But it's true. Mike G, thank you. Says, love the channel. Anthony, following your stuff, man. Loyal fan here. Love Big Blue. Will Cam take over the lead back role this year?
Anthony, go ahead.
I think there's a good chance. Shout out to you, Mike G. I see you in the Fireside Giants chats all the time. Thanks for following over to the collective. But I think there's a good chance he does. I think he'll probably play more of a complimentary role starting out because Tyrone Tracy Jr., I mean, he really showed a lot of efficiency as a runner last year. Maybe he doesn't have that home run hitting ability necessarily that Cam Skattebo might have. But Tyrone Tracy, I just think, is a very patient runner between the tackles. Who's just going to do a lot in that regard. And I think Skattebo is going to get involved early as a receiving back. Now, midway point of the season, whoever's more effective, they'll turn to as the lead back. So I don't know, but I did bring up this question on Fireside Giants with Alex, and I guess I'll ask the panel. So we were doing, if you guys have ever watched the Rich Eisen show, they do Overreaction Monday. Every Monday, they kind of take hot takes. Yeah. So I brought that over to FSG because I think it's pretty fun. So my overreaction was, after the Giants drafted Cam Skattebo, the Giants are going to have 2 running backs with 1,000 all-purpose yards this season. Is that an overreaction?
Yes. Yeah.
No.
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I think it's much less likely than likely. So I will say overreaction.
I think it's not. I think that could definitely happen. They'd have to get 500 yards on the ground, 500 yards in the air, or 700 yards. It's definitely possible.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Definitely possible.
With Wilson, if they really use him as more of a receiving back, and if the offensive line can block, why not?
Yeah.
We might not win those games, but just like
I hope if they do that, I think the Giants are going to have a good offense. So I hope that is the case. But and to piggyback off what Anthony said, I don't think that's the plan to have maybe I misinterpreted what Mike G's question was, but if his question was, do I envision Skattebo or Tracy, or either one of them, being a bell cow, being a Saquon back for the Giants? No, I think Joe Schoen's plan is to have a running back by committee. And I think both of those guys complement each other very nicely. They're kind of polar opposites. So Scatterbo will probably get an increased role as the year goes along, but I think it's going to be an RBBC, running back by committee.
We need to come up with a nickname for those guys. Something. I don't know, but we had Thunder and Lightning, we had Earth, Wind, and Fire, and if these guys do what we think they can do, we're gonna have to come up with something for those two. Robert, thank you. We're gonna take Roberts. That'll be the last one tonight. He says, just joined, so sorry if you guys are asked this, but what free agents are must get for you guys following the draft? I don't know if there's a must get, if I'm being honest, Robert. I don't know how much cap space they have left. I can't imagine it's much.
I'm
but
going to tell you a guy I saw today that I don't know if the Giants want him, and I know he fell off. Jedrick Wills is still a free agent.
Who is?
Jedrick Wills, the tackle the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
They're neck and neck between Andrew Thomas and Jedrick Wills back in 2021. He hasn't been signed yet, and he didn't have a great year last year. He had like a 55 PFF grade, but we need a swing tackle. I mean, I don't know what
hurt a lot though.
Yeah, he's hurt.
Larry Phillips too.
Yeah, I don't know what his market is, but maybe bring him in for a workout at least.
I don't think you can bring enough linemen into this club for a workout. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to follow up that with Brandon Scherf, who's also still available. He's a guard. Dable already said, Bo, they're going to move him to tackle, which he did play right tackle last year, but it sounds like their plan is that he's going to be a swing tackle. And, we don't know what we're going to get out of Neal or Azudu. So I 100% would bring in someone like Scherf, someone who has guard experience as a veteran, to battle it out with GVR and to be a backup, because I don't think they should plan for Azudu or Neal to be the backups.
Sure. I'll never forget him either, because Washington took him ahead of us. And then, of course, we ended up with Eric Flowers in that draft. And on that note, I don't want to end on a bad note. So,
what I want to add about, I haven't even looked at the free agents still left. One position that I think the Giants should still prioritize if they could get somebody that they feel could make even a minor impact is interior defensive line. I don't know the names that are out there, but I would like them to add another player there if possible.
yeah.
I will throw rain on the whole parade, though, unfortunately, to let everybody know, in case you didn't know, the team with the least amount of salary cap space in the NFL right now is the New York Giants. They have $1 million.
Move a little money around,
Yeah, they can move things around. They have $1 million in cap space, but they have negative $9 million in effective cap space, which is that number that I kept bringing up in lead up to the draft, saying the Giants had so many picks, they needed to trade at least one of them, which ended up being 99. It was a good thing, because otherwise it'd be negative 10 million or something like that. So yeah, they got to make space. The cap space really, they don't have any. After the draft class, they're going to be well in the negative. So they'll restructure Burns, Lawrence, Thomas, maybe one of them, maybe all three of them, somebody. They got cuts coming up as well. Raheem Nunez-Roches could be on the block, even though I agree with you, Chris. They should hold on to any defensive line depth that they can. But yeah, not to rain on the parade. I don't expect any free agency signings between now and the regular season. They got to make some moves to get some money free.
He spent his money wisely, so it's okay. Real quick, Chislo, then he says some nicknames: Tybo, Scatron, T. Cambo. They'll figure it out. Hopefully they kick some ass this year, and we can.
Scatron's not bad. I don't hate Scatron. It's not bad.
Yeah,
No, it's not bad at all. Just want to say again, big shout out to BetUS for powering this stream. As always, go over there, check out their YouTube channel, BetUS TV. Thank you guys and girls for being here as always. Over 500 in the chat. Much appreciated. Again, if you haven't done so, like it, subscribe, ring the bell, check out us out on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Those links are in the description below. For Adriana, Anthony, and Atena, enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays. But another episode of Giants Collective. We'll see you Friday, and we are out. Peace.